Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor, I'm the man on the Silver Mountain and welcome back. Now today I want to talk about loneliness, and why is that? Well, because loneliness affects everybody. It's a very normal thing, but it's also a thing that's so hard for so many people to deal with. It's a really tough thing. It's why after relationships break down, people get clingy, or you have kind of random rebounds that sometimes turn out to be some of the worst decisions of your life. You have these messy situations that boil up around loneliness, and it's never fun to be lonely, but it's even worse to be kind of clawing at not being lonely and not getting anywhere. And so as a result, I wanted to go through kind of five things here that just need to be kind of maybe kept in mind if you're feeling lonely, and especially if it's like lonely as the result of a breakup or something like that, just to hopefully give you a little bit more perspective and help you come out at the other end of it all the better. Because as someone that's made mistakes when they felt lonely, as someone who has allowed themselves to get far too attached when they've felt lonely, and who have allowed their maybe to an extent unrealistic hope get the better of them, quite frankly, you're better off engaging with what I'm about to say here rather than going off and letting yourself fall into those kind of tiger traps. But anyway, the first thing that I would say is that the loneliness is a really sucky feeling. It's that empty, hollow, kind of isolated, both hot and cold feeling all at once, where you're just sat there and kind of it feels like no matter how close other people get to you, they don't get close enough. And that can be a feeling that we run away from, and we try and run away from it fast and hard. And yet, that can possibly be some of the worst things that you can do. Like the number of people that after a breakup, they get very emotional, they get aggressive, they drink, they eat, they look for kind of comfort in sex with strangers, or by kind of in the worst case scenarios maybe stalking their ex. In some cases going out and buying huge amounts of things that they don't need through retail therapy. The thing with that is that explosion, or it is just that, it causes damage around where it's gone off, and it kind of breaks everything down after that. You end up with less money, you have slipped backwards on the health that you were developing through kind of your diet or whatever. Drinking can lead to all manner of problems that you cause yourself. Sex with random people just to feel something can lead to the worst case scenarios, STDs. The best case scenario, just some unfulfilling kind of used feelings. And so you've got that explosive kind of rush to try and get away from it. Whilst if you take the other approach and you kind of accept that loneliness is a thing that you're just experiencing right now, and that the way to get through it is to acknowledge it, but realize that you are in control of yourself, you've done what you need to do, and then you can move forward on it. That's the important thing, because that way you're able to continue with your normal life. You're able to not start slipping back or destroying progress you've made in other areas of your life. You're able to keep going. So it's keeping cool, calm, collected. Have a cry, have a day where you just let yourself maybe break down into tears and you let yourself feel what you're feeling. But then after that, you felt it, you know it's there, you've acknowledged it, you're better than that, right? You're stronger than that. It's part of you. It's not you being dragged along by it. So then get up, sort yourself out, keep going with what you need to do. The next thing that I would say is that an awful lot of people will when you're in that kind of situation, when you're lashing out at things, they will lose sight of the whole fact that everyone feels lonely. It'll be just about them. Everyone feels lonely. Yeah? Whether they're in a relationship or not, everyone at some point is going to feel lonely. Me, when Hannah's on the other side of London and I'm stuck here and there's no one else in the house, and even if there are other people around, and I'm not kind of wanting to engage with them, but I'm also wanting kind of to be close to Hannah, and I can't be, then that sucks. That loneliness kind of boils up. Even though I'm in a long-term relationship and whatever else, that loneliness is always going to pop its head out at some point or another just to say hi. Why? Because it's an emotion. It's a reaction in your brain. It's something that will always sit with you. Simply put, acknowledge it, keep going. Yeah, same overall approach to take with that. It's a normal part of everyday life, and it is going to be ever present when you are either in a relationship or out of a relationship. It's not necessarily something to fix. It's something to go, like, if I was here and I didn't feel lonely and kind of alone and apart from Hannah when I was here, then that would kind of suggest that I didn't really feel much or have much investment or engagement with that relationship, right? So the fact that I do feel lonely, the fact that I would want her here, surely that stands out as more of an important thing to take on board. It means that I care. It's a demonstration of the fact that I want to engage with her, that I want her in my life, and that I enjoy having her around. It's not a bad thing that needs fixing, it's a bad thing that's showing me the good. Like, if I fixed it, then how would I know if something was good or bad? Yeah? It's something that's kind of minor in the grand scheme of things, but it's that thing that when it pops out, it lets me see the good in the world, because it provides contrast. The next thing that I would go on to say is that a lot of people will then also, because the emotions explode and you have all these bad effects, and then you've not taken it as just a normal part of life that's always going to be around, then you start looking back at past experiences and looking for patterns, because humans, we're great at patterns, guys. We will always look for patterns. Whether it's pattern recognition of someone's face, pattern recognition in what we see. Whenever someone says to you, oh, there are a lot of blue cars out today, you will notice every blue car. Every single one, because it has been brought to the forefront of your mind. And so your eyes spot them more. And that's going to be a constant thing. And so when it comes to relationships and loneliness and this kind of stuff, people will stop and they'll see this huge explosion of terrible things, and they will look for the patterns that they have had in their lives. And they will pick out every negative thing, whether it was a parent telling them that they were unloved when they were a very small child, whether it was being left alone with some random grandparent for a long time that made them feel very lonely, whether it was being isolated and bullied in school, whether it was a string of unsuccessful relationships, or maybe just one unsuccessful relationship that kind of made them kind of crumble a little inside. All of those things are now going to become apparent to that person in their lonely, isolated, saddened state. And so the thing to kind of address this, I would say, every single one of those past experiences was a learning experience. And if it wasn't, then it can be. And so in this lonely state where you're either acknowledging, if you're acknowledging it's a normal part of life, then in theory you shouldn't be dwelling on the past so much. But if you do find yourself going back there, because it's a human thing, it's a very natural thing to just go back and look for those patterns, relive those memories. How many times have you sat there and just randomly thought of something that you did like 20 years ago or something that's made you cringe? You know, We always go back, and every time we relive those memories change. Nothing in our mind is set in concrete. Every time we relive the memory, we're not reliving the memory itself, we're reliving the memory of the memory. And so each time we're overwriting it, and each time we're overwriting it, it's becoming more of the thing that we remember it being rather than the thing that it was. So if every time you're addressing these past experiences, you're remembering them in a lonely, sad, angry, miserable state, then those memories are only going to become more angry, sad, lonely, and miserable for you. Go back and look at them as a learning experience where you learned that was a person that you didn't want to be with, where you learned that way of life was not a way that you wanted to live, that actually maybe those things were small things that you didn't need to argue about. Maybe that big thing should have been a deal breaker a long time before you got to the point where you split up. Learn those things, take them on board, remember those memories through a positive light of learning instead of through misery and upset. Because that way, every time you remember them afterwards, they will only become more enlightening to you. They will only become more reinforcing of the lessons you learned. But in regards to learning lessons, the thing to do around learning lessons, and something that I've talked about ad infinitum on this channel in various videos, is asking questions. And the problem with asking questions around loneliness is an awful lot of people ask the question why. Because it's a really easy question to ask, but it's a question that also asks to be answered. Why did this happen to me? Why do I feel so lonely? Why couldn't we make it work? It's a question that begs to be answered, and then we answer it for ourselves. Why did this happen to me? Oh, it's because you're unlovable, schmuck. Well, why do I feel so lonely? Because you're a hopeless, pathetic human being. Why couldn't we make it work? Because you're worthless and she's perfect. You know, you're answering these questions for yourself. And so what it comes down to is a problem in the way we ask. Because if you replace why with what, then what leaves much, much more openness in the asking. What was it that made this happen? Right, so now if I'm answering this question, what was it that made this happen? It's not why. It's not begging for an instant response. What was it? It's asking for a specific thing. Now, it might, if you're really feeling down on yourself, you might still turn around, or if it was actually your fault maybe, you might still turn around and peg it on you. But what was it that made this happen to me? Well, it was the fact that she was still shackled to her parents, and I couldn't cope with being around them all the time. Why do I feel so lonely? I don't know, because I thought that I had a lot of hope. I had a lot of expectations in that. Sure. But then if you go, what is it that's making me feel so lonely? The fact that I've isolated myself in a room, that I'm feeling miserable for myself and I'm not going out to see my friends because I feel bad. Right, okay. What was it that stopped us from making it work? Well, she would literally have her parents come on dates with us. I couldn't speak my mind. I couldn't talk freely. It was horrible. Right, okay, in which case now you pinned down much more specifics on the experiences or the things that you've gone through, instead of going, oh, why do I feel? Well, you feel because you're human. Asking, what was it that made you feel that way? That's a thing that then allows you to go, yeah, but I control me. So I just need to take into account that made me feel this way, that one thing, and just change it around. So either you can become more functional generally in the future, or at least you know what to avoid. But then the last part that I want to address here is, I think, the biggest lesson, and it's the one that I kind of took on board when, from the times that I've been loneliest. And that is that loneliness is very much a part of personal growth, and it's healthy. So, you when you're alone, you learn to be more dependent on yourself. If you let yourself be more reliant on your own agency. You allow yourself to become more solid, more kind of controlled, more powerful, provided you're moving in that direction and you're letting yourself be those things. You can let yourself take risks more easily because there's no one else there with you, because you're all alone. And I'm not talking about unhealthy risks. I'm talking about, I don't know, going for that promotion that you thought you'd be great for, but because you had other concerns, you didn't think you'd be able to. But now, because you're alone and your concerns are your own, you can go and try for that. You were worried, you wanted to take up a hobby. I don't know, maybe you wanted to take up something that's maybe, I don't know, boxing. But your other half, or the other people that you were around that were letting you feel less lonely, but who were also the people who were telling you, no, you shouldn't do that. Well, now that they're gone, now that you're on your own, you can follow your path of personal growth, you can take that risk, and you can go and engage with that thing to, at the very least, see if you actually wanted it or not. And so that personal growth, that learning, that time alone, you may very well see people going and meditating or learning or whatever else in groups, but the individual is the thing that learns. The individual is the thing that gains clarity. You are the thing that learns or gains clarity by yourself. This is where I have issues with so many different aspects of things like education. You, being put together as a group, that's fine. Being part of a partnership, that's fine. But you need to recognize that you are an individual, they're an individual, and that learning, growth, your own emotions, the risks you take, they are very much more directed towards the individual, the you, rather than the us. And so, especially with loneliness, where you are alone, this is the time where you can learn the most. This is the time where you can test yourself the most. This is the time when you can take risks the most without necessarily feeling too worried about other things or being held back by others. So take advantage of it. Even in a very long-term, solid relationship, time apart is important. Even if it's only a day or an afternoon or something like that, that time alone is important. And that might not invoke kind of feelings of loneliness because it's a short period or whatever, but that time alone still allows for personal growth, for gaining clarity, for learning, for development, for taking risks on your own time. And so take advantage of it. But anyway, guys, I hope you found this interesting. Please let me know down in the comments below your experiences with loneliness. Do you feel that, is there anything else that you would add to what I've been saying here? Any other tips that people can learn from? I'm interested to see what you guys have to say. But otherwise, thank you very much, guys, and I'll see you in the video tomorrow. Take care. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video or found it interesting, then please drop us a like, share this video, and subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the video tomorrow. Take care.